So, tell the world who you are and what you do, my friend.
Well, my name is Brandin Phillips. I think, at least how you and I got acquainted was just a few weeks ago through Grit and Steel Gear, which is the company that I own. We make really high-end, very durable, high-quality gear for dogs. So collars, leashes, accessories, hardware that's going to be necessary for people with working dogs. And but that project is actually pretty new. I've only been doing that for about a year and a half. Before then, I've essentially been a dog person my entire life. I was born in Arizona, where my dad was always an avid hunter, so we had hunting dogs growing up. We had bird dogs. Actually, I grew up with he had a German short hair pointer we used to hunt behind that he had before I was even born. So we had pets and stuff in the house as well, but I think that's what sort of always oriented my mind more toward working breeds. It's always just kind of brought up in a way where like a dog should be used for something, right? Yeah, and then not to mention, it was always a lot of fun to just go hunt behind a dog and then watch dogs do what they do. Shortly after that, out here in the 80s and 90s, greyhound racing was really popular. We had state-of-the-art tracks all throughout Arizona. So I would go and check those out. I mean, through high school and even into college, even when I had other dog interests, I would still, when I had some time off, go watch the dogs run at the track. You know, I just loved to watch the dogs run. Of course, they were betting tracks. So when I was under 18, I couldn't always bet on the dogs. Mm-hmm. But even after I was old enough to bet, I still hardly ever placed a bet. The gambling aspect never appealed to me. I just enjoyed watching the dogs do what they do and, just kind of learn about that entire world. So I was always kind of geared toward that. And then my freshman year in college, I went to school at University of Arizona to play football down there. And the first year, I had to live in the dorms because that was what they made all of us do. And it was the first time in my whole life that I hadn't had a dog, which was really weird, you know. So as soon as that first year was up, I was 18, and I finally out of the dorms, 19, finally out of the dorms, and decided I really wanted to get my own dog, And I was just kind of debating on what kind of dog I wanted to get, and I decided on a pit bull because just some of my buddies were getting them, and they were so readily available. I mean, back in Tucson back then, this is 25 years ago. Dogs just ran the street, man. You know what I mean? They were all over the place, like in packs and stuff. And pit bulls were really popular, so they were just all over. And within, just a month or so of me moving out of the dorms, I finally got this little condo, and I found I found two of an adult dog running around with a little puppy. They both were pit bulls. I ended up keeping the puppy. And, the adult ran off or something. So I went to the store, man, to say, okay, I got a dog now. So I'm going to look for some dog food and get some supplies. Mm-hmm. And I picked up bag of dog food, a couple other, dishes. And there was a book that they were selling. It was one of the American Pit Bull Terrier books by Richard Stratton. And I was like, you know what, give me that too. I'm going to read up on these dogs a little bit. And, I think I had that book finished inside of a week. And I would say within 6 months' time, I had found a home for that little dog. Actually, I sent him to live with my uncle. And I was just dove in with both feet into the American Pit Bull Terrier. I think by Christmas of that same year, this was the summertime, I think by Christmas, I had already 5 or 6 dogs of my own, all registered, all, the traditional, heritage American Pit Bull Terriers. And I just never really looked back. You know what I mean? So since then, that has been my breed of choice. They're my favorite. Still to this day, but I definitely have a strong appreciation for a dog that is bred to perform a task.
Absolutely. It's funny. We talked a little bit about this the other day. I called you just to tell you that the collars came in and just holy smokes, what a collar, right. What a product, number one. Let's talk about that first before we get into the rest of the conversation. I made a joke about it. I was like, what was this, forged with Thor's hammer or something. Like these collars,
Right.
these collars they'll outlast me. Like these collars will probably still be here, fully functional when I'm long dead. You sent me 2 different collars, and both of which were just so impressive. The one I ended up sending to the co-owner of my Borble, the threaded one, it just looked a little better. It wasn't as bulky on my little pit bull girl. When did you decide I'm going to make a collar of my own? And what went into that thought process?
Yeah, sure. So I think, like I said earlier, the Grit and Steel Company has only been around, for about a year. I think we're right at a year and a half. And what got me into it was, I never intended to sell collars, but I had, like I mentioned, my dad, who was an avid hunter, he has like a kind of a sporting goods type store. And so we've got access to some guys who have, access to materials and have, things made for that particular industry. Mm-hmm. And, look, I always tell people, trying to reinvent the collar is a little bit like trying to reinvent the wheel because a collar has been around for as long as a dog has been around, right? I mean, it literally is like the first thing anybody ever put on a dog was a collar. So, but I had some ideas, man, and it was just because of all breeds, the American Pit Bull Terrier is the hardest on equipment. Absolutely. And, when I first started coming, I know things have changed so much in the last 25 years, but when I first started coming around, the American Pit Bull Terrier, they were mostly outside dogs. They were mostly kept in chains or on tie-outs, whether they were overhead or cable runs or just the old-fashioned, chain with a stake in the ground. That's the way that they have been kept, and frankly, they have been kept like that for not hundreds, but like thousands of years. Those bull type dogs have been kept that way. So one of the things that you discover is that that's very, very hard on collars, right? So whether you're using leather or nylon, I mean, nylon's been super popular for like the last 30 or 40 years. The problem is nothing lasts very long. And the reason it doesn't last very long is because, they're in the outside elements. So whether it's wet, it's hot, it's, dry, it's cold, all those elements are constantly beating on the collar. And then, if you run a loop or something through that collar, then you have metal components that are constantly rubbing along the collar. So long story short, guys, I think just got kind of used to like, hey, I know every couple of years I got to throw a collar away and get a new one. And in seeing some of the materials we had coming through the store, I thought, man, you know what? There's actually a better way to do this. I got some ideas. So I made a couple design changes just to allow like one size collar to kind of fit like a wide range of dogs, which is kind of unique in of itself. But then the materials I use, it's like I wanted something that was going to be weatherproof, waterproof, and then would last a really long time. So I got a couple different varieties of that now on the website. It just, I always tell people a collar is kind of like a tool. So whichever one you end up getting is sort of just like what you're going to do most with your dog, right? I mean, if you got dogs that are going to be outside on tie-outs, I got the best collar in the world for that. If you want something that's just beefed up, but they're in and out of kennels or they're living in the house, a great looking collar, then I got that too. So, we really just kind of started doing that, for fun and for my own dogs. And then I had so many guys that were like, oh, dude, can we make some for me? I'll buy them from you. I just said, forget it, and I'll just go ahead and do it. And then I made a website, and 18 months later or so, it's been pretty good, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Explain what these are made out of. Okay, you sent me 2 different models. Explain those, and explain what these are made out of, because it's definitely different. I could tell that once they set in, like they're gonna get worn in a little bit. But I could tell just by the design, once they're worn in, they're going to last longer than, like I said, my lifetime probably.
Yeah. So I think the one collar that you contacted me about at first, that one is called the Evergrit collar. We named it that because it's really designed to last forever, man. That one is really, really unique in the materials and the design because as far as I know, I'm the first collar in the world that, to have zero rivets, glue, or threads to hold the collar together. So there's a process. It's called radio frequency welding. You have to have a very specific type of polymer to even be able to do that. And so we went through a bunch of different polymer blends to land on a something that I would say it almost has a feel like a biothane. People ask me all the time if that's what it is, but it's not. It's much thicker. It's much stiffer. It's much more durable than what most people think of when they think of like a biothane material. But that's kind of what it has the feel of, so it's very smooth. Also, not having any rivets or threads, it's very easy on the dog's neck. So if you have dogs that are prone to like collar rub, some dogs, they just have more sensitive skin. This thing is excellent for that. And because there are no threads, anything that's threaded is really what causes a collar to eventually fall apart, right? So even in the nylon collars, all nylon is, it's just a bunch of little tiny woven threads. Well, the problem with those is as time goes on, right? It's like a sweater, man. It slowly just starts to unravel and come apart. Whereas the Evergrip collar will never do that. It cannot, crack or come unglued because there's no glue. It cannot, there's no threads for it to unravel. So that thing really, really should last forever. And it's just a really unique product that no one else has. The other collar I sent you, and you mentioned it, that's the one that does have threads. That one's a much more flexible collar, so a lot of people like it for that. It's a little bit softer, too. It almost has like a rubbery, it's not rubber, but if you were to just feel it in your hand, it almost kind of feels like a rubber. But it doesn't stretch or anything like that, so it's got a lot of longevity with it as well. But, of course, having threads, eventually, it's just a matter of time, right? But eventually those threads will start to come undone, and then, it'll fall apart like any collar will. But we've got a special type of thread that we use on that. It's also a number 0 thread, which, in the textile industry, that's like the thickest industrial grade thread that you can put on there. And then, of course, on both the collars, I sent you, the Evergrip and the Ultra Grip, which is the one with threads. You can see that the stainless steel is just awesome. It's all surgical grade. 304 stainless steel. None of it is welded. A lot of D-rings and buckles that are on collars, they're welded pieces of metal together. These are not formed this way. We actually take custom molds and have the 304 stainless steel poured directly into those custom molds so that you have a monolithic piece of metal, which means it's just going to last forever, right? And of course, 304 stainless, you don't have to worry about it eroding or getting rust. So for you guys that keep, dogs outside or on those tie-outs, you're not going to have to worry about your hardware ever giving way on you. So there's really is just, we didn't spare any detail, man. We just wanted to create something that was totally different. The stainless steel, you probably also noticed when you look at the buckle and the D-ring, that D-ring is 10 millimeters in thickness, so it is huge. The buckle is also very big. Like this is some of the most robust equipment that's being made in the world right now. So that's really our niche. And the materials are just phenomenal, man. The Evergrip is made up of, like I said, it's sort of like a proprietary polymer blend. And then the Ultra Grip, which is the one with threads, that's the one that kind of has almost a rubbery feel. That's actually a TPU. It's a transdermal polyurethane is what that is, and that's coated over an industrial grade belt. So, that probably just sounds like alphabet soup to the normal guy, but it's all real high end stuff.
You've put so much into these collars, but then when you sent me your actual website, like I found you on Facebook, like there were some guys that were, really big fans of your product. Found you on Facebook, you sent me your website, and to my surprise, these prices on these collars are not ridiculous at all. Considering the product, are you guys doing like harnesses and things like that?
Yeah, so we actually just made a harness, and to your point, and so well, I guess let me back up and answer that question. Yeah, we just made a harness, and again, we just don't want to do like if we're going to do a collar, it's not just going to be a regular collar, right? So same thing with anything we make. The harness it can't be a regular harness. So we've got a harness, and we went through a lot of design modifications to make sure it's got, again, a very wide range of dogs that it'll fit on. So we've got some dogs on this harness that are 35 pounds, others that are, pushing 100. It fits them well because of its adjustability. And it's also very durable. It's made of the same material you were talking about earlier that we make our Ultra Grit platform on. And so it's just really high-end stuff. And we tout it as the most versatile harness because there's 5 D-ring hookups on it. So on the very top, depending on like if you're going to take the dog for a walk, or we've got one that's up near the neck, the other that's a little closer down near the back, or some guys that like to put their dogs on some sort of treadmills. It's got all the hookups based on or independent of whatever treadmill you want to use, right? So it'll fit on whether you're using an email, a slap mill, a carpet mill, however you like to exercise your dog.
Nice.
And then on the other side, it actually has the D-rings for tracers. So you get people that like to do like weight pulling stuff, like just say pull a sled through the grass or whatever. A lot of times they use tracers that attach to the side of the harness. And then you got old school guys that are like, I just want my dog to do like either pull weight through the grass or drag chains through the grass for whatever, right? And we've got another D-ring loop that's right underneath the dog. So we wanted to create a harness that you could do anything in, from walking, running, biking, mill work, weight pull type stuff. And that's what we got, the Ultra Grit harness. And yeah, man, to your point, right, is we tried to make everything super affordable too. So like I said, I grew up, a working guy. I grew up with working dogs. I know there's a lot of products out there that, seem like they're very pricey.
Yeah.
And I want this to be something that the working guy, right, can use. And everything I designed is with that guy in mind, and not necessarily the guy that just has one dog that's going to buy one time from you and then that's it. I want to get the loyalty of some of the biggest breeders in the world that are using our stuff, right? And that they keep coming back because they've got a lot of clients, they got a lot of dogs themselves. And we really make products with those guys in mind.
I want to ask you this just from me. I've always been such a sucker for spiked collars. Do you ever consider putting out a line of spiked collars?
You know what, man? I would say this. It's not on my short list, okay?
Okay.
Not to say that we would never do it, because to your point, man, you find a lot of that stuff in pet stores and little boutique shops all over because there is a high demand. And I never say never, because as this business grows, I want it to be able to serve, whoever it's intended to best serve. So it's not on my short list just because, like I mentioned earlier, I really have the guy that is just like the hardcore functional working guy in mind with the products we're developing right now. Mm-hmm. But I will say that as we grow, I don't plan to just get to a point where I go, okay, I've done everything I can thought of, and now I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. Right. One of the things I've always told people is that this project was not started because I just wanted to be a guy who could sell some collars, right? I mean, that's what a lot of guys who sell collars online do. And I understand the thought process. They're guys with dogs themselves, and they go, hey, you know what? I got a good number of dogs, and if I started making my own collars, I could do it cheaper, and I could do it for my dogs, and then maybe I could sell some, and then that way, like it kind of pays for the stuff I'm doing at home with I get it. Like, all that is totally valid, but that's not the reason why I started doing collars. Like, I started doing it, as I was telling you earlier, because it became a passion project for me to really try and reinvent the wheel, right? Which is hard to do. Yeah. So I really want to. What I'm doing with like the technology and the different things I'm doing into these collars, I'm trying to push everything forward. Like, I want to bring cool new products that people have either never thought of before, or if you've seen a version of it before, this is clearly the better version of it, right? So, so I do have, I would say, probably the next year out, planned in like what I'm going to do and some of the new stuff I'm going to bring into market. But all that to say that, yes, eventually we will get around to like some of the more like boutique or just like, you know, some of the stuff you're talking about, like, or where it's just for aesthetics, like whether it's spikes or whether, you know, whatever. Never say never. Well, if the market is there, then I'm certainly open to it. But with my background, functionality and really pragmatism, right, is what I'm after.
Absolutely,
at least in the short to interim, you know,
100%. 100%. I see where you're coming from. When I first got your collars in hand, I was like, man, my first thought, just me being a nerd, you know, was, man, how cool would it be to spike these out? But it's got like either like eagle claw or dragon claw spikes coming out of it, like just like looking nasty as shit. Like, and I love that old look of like, you remember the Looney Tunes, that bulldog with the big spike collar and stuff. I love that. For me, I'm just like, that is still the shit in my mind. It's still awesome.
There you go, man. Hey, listen, like I said, there's a market for that stuff. I'm just not in it. But I never say never, man. You know what I mean? Who knows? Like, the reality is, if people keep reacting to this product in the next 5 years the way they have these last 18 months, then that could give me an ability to do a lot of different things, right? So if I want to go do some like, you know, creative, fun stuff, you know, on the side, that's a little bit more niche than what I'm doing now, then, man, you know, I love it. Because like I said, this project was never designed to be like, we're not going to have a bunch of Me Too products, right, that everyone else has. We're just another guy selling another nylon, you know, collar, right? We really want to do something that's unique and different, but not just for the sake of being different, but something that's really better. I want everyone to have that same feeling you had when you first held that thing in your hand, and you're like, wow, dude, like, I'm blown away.
Oh,
like,
my goodness.
And those are some of the best compliments, you know, that I get. Like,
but even the attention to detail, as far as like, okay, that little metal plate that says Grit and Steel, that little bit of added detail, like that extra care to this product,
just a little above and beyond, right?
Yeah.
Listen, what I was getting ready to say is, you know, like I had guys who had, you know, dogs twice as long as I have, who, you know, I looked up to when I was, you know, 20, right? And they're like, and they just are like, dude, they're like, this thing is so nice, I don't even want to put it on my dog. Like, these are guys that have been around and been in their dogs and their breed, you know, for a long time. And so that's exactly, you know, what I set out to do. So I love that feedback, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's gritandsteel.com.
Grit and Steel Gear. It's all one word. Gritandsteelgear.com. Yep.